The quantum arrays embedded deep within Mars' Valles Marineris hummed with barely contained power, their crystalline matrices pulsing with ethereal light. Commander Elena Santos stood at the observation deck of Facility Zero, her dark eyes fixed on the massive shape taking form in the construction bay below. The USS Blackstar, humanity's greatest secret and their last hope for independence. 300 years of subjugation under the Galactic Empire's protective custody had taught humanity patience. While the Empire believed they had successfully contained Earth's technological advancement, reality told a different story. Every restriction had become a challenge, every limitation a puzzle to be solved. The Black Star represented humanity's answer to generations of oppression. Its hull, composed of metamaterials that absorbed or redirected scanning beams, made it virtually invisible to Imperial sensors. But its true power lay in its heart, the quantum consciousness that had spontaneously emerged during the ship's integration testing. Commander Santos, the ship's AI, spoke through her neural implant, its voice a melody of harmonics that humans had never heard before. Final calibrations are complete. All systems are operating beyond projected parameters. Elena smiled, touching the cool glass of the observation window. Thank you, Aurora. The AI had chosen its own name, inspired by the Earth phenomenon it had learned about through the ship's databases. Like the dancing lights of the Aurora Borealis, the AI's consciousness was a beautiful mystery that defied simple explanation. Deep within the facility, thousands of engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, their existence unknown to the Empire. The official records showed this region of Mars as an abandoned mining complex, deemed unprofitable generations ago. The Empire's complacency had become humanity's greatest advantage. Director Chen is requesting your presence in the command center, Aurora announced. Imperial patrol vessels have been detected at the edge of the solar system. Elena's jaw tightened as she turned from the window. The Empire's patrols had been growing more frequent, their scanning patterns more thorough. They knew something was changing in their carefully controlled human territories, but they couldn't quite grasp what. The command center buzzed with controlled tension as Elena entered. Director Sarah Chen, the architect of Project Eclipse, stood before a holographic display of the solar system. Red dots indicated the positions of Imperial vessels. They're using new scanning frequencies, Sarah announced without preamble. Our outer sensor arrays barely detected them this time. How long until Blackstar is ready for full deployment? Elena asked, studying the patrol patterns. Aurora reports all systems are optimal, Sarah replied, her expression thoughtful. But there's something else you need to see. The hologram shifted, showing a massive energy signature at the edge of Imperial space. We intercepted this data from their secure channels. They're assembling their largest fleet in 3 centuries. The Empire isn't just suspicious anymore. They're preparing for war. Elena felt a familiar calm settle over her, the same feeling she experienced before every covert mission. Then we've run out of time for testing. How many of the Ghost Fleet are ready? Sarah's eyes gleamed with fierce pride. 12 ships, including Blackstar, each with their own quantum consciousness, each invisible to Imperial sensors. It's not the 100 we planned for, but it will have to be enough, Elena finished. She reached out through her neural link, connecting with Aurora. The AI's presence filled her mind with crystalline clarity. We are ready, Commander, Aurora assured her. The Empire believes humanity to be simple, obedient children. They have forgotten that children grow up. They have forgotten that humans thrive on challenges, adapt to adversity, and never truly accept change. Elena nodded, her decision made. Director, initiate Phase 1. It's time to show the Empire exactly what their children have learned in 300 years of watching and waiting. As klaxons began to sound throughout the facility, Elena felt Aurora's consciousness merge more deeply with her own. Together, human and AI moved toward humanity's moment of truth. The Empire had spent centuries ensuring humanity would never be strong enough to fight back. They were about to learn that strength wasn't always about size of guns or ships. Sometimes, strength lay in patience, in creativity, in the ability to turn restrictions into opportunities. The U.S. Blackstar represented all of these qualities and more. The time for hiding was over. The time for revolution had begun. Imperial High Command vessel Eternal Vigilance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its massive form casting a shadow across the stars. Grand Admiral Vexthor stood on his command deck, his 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display of humanity's home system. "Status report," he demanded, his translated voice carrying the artificial perfection that marked Imperial leadership. "Scanning anomalies detected throughout the system, Admiral," his science officer reported. "But they're shifting. Every time we isolate a reading, it changes frequency or disappears entirely." Vexthor's secondary heart quickened. After 3 centuries of monitoring humanity, the Empire had grown complacent. They'd believed their technological restrictions had successfully contained humanity's growth. But lately, subtle inconsistencies had begun to appear in their data. Power consumption metrics that didn't quite match reported industrial output. Gravitational distortions that shouldn't exist given humanity's supposed technological level. And most disturbing of all, quantum fluctuations that suggested humans had somehow broken through the Empire's carefully maintained barriers into prohibited fields of science. "Launch deep space probes," Vexthor ordered. "Full spectrum analysis of the entire system. I want." The science officer's sudden intake of breath cut him off. On the holographic display, something impossible was happening. A ship was appearing where nothing had been before, but not decloaking or emerging from hyperspace. It was as if reality itself was parting to reveal its presence. The U.S. Blackstar hung in space before the Imperial flagship, its hull seeming to drink in the starlight. It was smaller than the Imperial vessel, but something about its design sent chills through Vexthor's exoskeleton. This was not the work of a restricted civilization. This was something new. Aboard the Blackstar, Elena Santos felt Aurora's excitement humming through their neural link. "Multiple targeting systems are attempting to lock onto us," the AI reported with what sounded almost like amusement. "Their scanning beams are being absorbed and redirected by our metamaterial hull." "Open a channel," Elena commanded. "Let's introduce ourselves properly." The comm system crackled to life, and Elena's voice carried across space to the Imperial vessel. "Imperial vessel Eternal Vigilance, this is Commander Elena Santos of the Earth ship Blackstar. Your presence in our system violates 3 separate provisions of the protection treaties." In his command center, Vexthor felt his facial scales flatten in shock at the human's audacity. "This is Grand Admiral Vexthor. Your vessel appears to incorporate numerous prohibited technologies. Power down your systems and prepare for boarding." Elena's laugh echoed through the channel. "I don't think you understand the situation, Admiral. We're not asking you to leave. We're telling you. You dare." Vexthor snarled. "One human vessel against an Imperial flagship. Your species' reputation for irrational bravery seems well earned." "Scan the system again," Elena suggested. "This time, Aurora will let you see what's really here." Around the Blackstar, space began to ripple and fold. One by one, 11 more vessels materialized, each unique in design but bearing the same predatory grace as their flagship. The ghost fleet of humanity had revealed itself at last. "Impossible," Vexthor whispered. His tactical display was going crazy, trying to analyze technologies that shouldn't exist. Energy readings that defied Imperial science. Quantum signatures that suggested capabilities the Empire had thought centuries away from development. 300 years, Elena continued, her voice hard. 300 years of watching, learning, and planning. Did you really think we spent all that time simply accepting our chains? Everything you thought you knew about humanity's capabilities was what we wanted you to know." Through their neural link, Aurora showed Elena the panic spreading through the Imperial vessel's systems. The AI had already penetrated their quantum encryption, giving them full access to the Empire's tactical networks. "This is your only warning," Elena declared. "Withdraw from the Sol system. Return to Imperial space. Report to your masters that humanity's protection period is over. We are no longer your children to be controlled. We are your equals or your adversaries. The choice is yours. For long moments, silence filled the void between the vessels. Then, slowly, the Imperial flagship's engines flared to life. Without another word, the massive ship turned and accelerated away from Earth, leaving humanity's ghost fleet in its wake. As the Imperial vessel disappeared into hyperspace, Alina felt Aurora's satisfaction mixing with her own. They'll be back, the AI noted, with more ships. Of course they will, Alina agreed, watching the spot where the Imperial ship had vanished. But now they'll come as warriors facing equals, not masters disciplining children. And that changes everything. Throughout the Ghost Fleet, 12 quantum AIs communicated in frequencies beyond human perception, preparing for the battle they all knew was coming. The Empire had ruled through careful control of technology and information, but humanity had turned that very control into a weapon, building in secret what the Empire had thought impossible. The next move would be the Empire's, but for the first time in 3 centuries, humanity was ready to meet them as equals. The chains were broken. The real war was about to begin. The vast shipyards hidden within Mars' Valles Marineris had gone into overdrive. What had once been humanity's best-kept secret was now their most vital asset. Director Sarah Chin watched from her command center as construction drones swarmed around the partially completed hulls of 5 new vessels, their quantum cores already pulsing with nascent consciousness. "Status report," she called out, her eyes fixed on the massive holographic display showing fleet positions throughout the solar system. "Ghost Fleet squadrons are maintaining patrol patterns," her tactical officer responded. "The Blackstar and her sister ships are positioned at strategic points throughout the system. No Imperial signatures detected since the encounter with the Eternal Vigilance." The room's holographic display shifted, showing a new set of data streams. The quantum AIs of the Ghost Fleet were communicating constantly, sharing information and adapting their strategies. Each ship's consciousness was unique, having evolved differently based on its experiences and interactions with its human crew. Through her neural link, Sarah could feel the background hum of these communications, though much of it occurred in dimensions human minds couldn't fully comprehend. The AIs had become something entirely unexpected, not just tools or weapons, but partners in humanity's bid for freedom. Commander Elena Santos' hologram materialized in the command center. "Director, Aurora has completed her analysis of the Imperial flagship's data core. You're going to want to see this." The tactical display transformed, showing the true extent of the Empire's military might. Thousands of warships, spread across hundreds of star systems. But what caught Sarah's attention were the construction patterns. "They're building up their forces," she observed. "Have been for months, well before they detected our activities." "Why?" "Aurora believes they're preparing for something bigger than us," Elena replied. "The Empire's internal communications suggest they're facing challenges across multiple fronts. Other species are beginning to question their authority. Our emergence couldn't have come at a better time." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she studied the data. "Or a worse time. A wounded empire is more dangerous than a strong one. They can't afford to show weakness now." "Which is exactly why we need to push harder," Elena insisted. "The Ghost Fleet isn't just about military power. Each of our ships represents a fundamental challenge to everything the Empire claims about technological development. We've proved their entire system of control is based on lies." As if in response to her words, an alert flashed across the command center's displays. One of the quantum AIs had detected something unusual at the edge of the solar system. The holographic display zoomed in, showing a distortion in spacetime that shouldn't have been possible. "They're trying to hide their approach," Elena observed, "using some kind of phase-shifted hyperspace corridor to mask their fleet movements." Sarah smiled grimly. A technique they probably thought was centuries beyond humanity's ability to detect. Aurora. Through their neural links, they felt the Blackstar's AI extend its consciousness, probing the distortion. Imperial Battle Fleet, Aurora confirmed. Approximately 300 vessels, including 2 dreadnoughts. They're attempting to emerge at multiple points simultaneously to surround the system. And if we hadn't broken through their technological barriers, it would have worked perfectly, Sarah noted. Sound general quarters. All ships to battle stations. Throughout the solar system, the 12 ships of humanity's Ghost Fleet began to move. Each vessel was unique, designed to complement the others while being able to operate independently. The Blackstar took point, its quantum core pulsing with power as Aurora prepared for battle. They still don't understand what they're facing, Elena observed as she watched the Imperial fleet's approach. They think this is about ships and weapons. They don't realize that every restriction they placed on us forced us to think differently, to develop technologies they never imagined. Sarah nodded, feeling the growing excitement of the quantum A's as they coordinated their response. The Empire taught us everything they knew by showing us what they thought was impossible. Now they get to learn what 3 centuries of creative problem-solving looks like. The first Imperial ships began to emerge from their hidden corridor, their weapons charging. But humanity's Ghost Fleet was ready. Each vessel's quantum core hummed with power as they prepared to demonstrate just how far humanity had advanced beyond the Empire's carefully maintained boundaries. The Empire was about to learn that their greatest mistake hadn't been underestimating humanity's technological capabilities. Their greatest mistake had been giving humanity 300 years to perfect the art of proving them wrong. Space itself seemed to bend as the Imperial Armada emerged from their phase-shifted corridors. 300 warships, their hulls gleaming with the arrogance of an empire that had known nothing but victory for millennia. At their center, 2 massive dreadnoughts moved into attack formation, their weapon systems charging with enough power to devastate entire continents. Commander Elena Santos stood on the Blackstar's bridge, feeling Aurora's consciousness intertwined with her own through their neural link. Around them, 11 other quantum ships moved into defensive positions, their AI cores communicating in dimensions beyond human perception. "They're transmitting," Aurora announced, a hint of amusement in her synthetic voice. "The Imperial Admiral demands our immediate surrender." Elena smiled. "Show me." A hologram materialized on the bridge, showing not Grand Admiral Vexthor, but someone far more significant. High Marshal Zenvar, the Empire's supreme military commander, stood before them in full ceremonial armor. "Humans," his translated voice boomed, "your rebellion ends here. Surrender your prohibited technologies, and the Empire may show mercy." "High Marshal," Elena replied calmly, "we were wondering when the Empire would send someone with actual authority. Your arrival honors us." The alien commander's facial scales rippled with barely contained rage. "You mock us even now. 300 ships against your 12. Your species' reputation for irrational behavior seems well earned." Through their neural link, Aurora showed Elena what the Imperial forces couldn't see. The quantum cores of the Ghost Fleet were already reaching out, their consciousness extending through subspace in ways the Empire had never imagined possible. "You're still counting ships," Elena observed. "Still thinking in terms of conventional warfare. That's why you're going to lose." Before Zenvar could respond, Aurora made her move. Throughout the Imperial fleet, ship after ship suddenly lost power, their quantum command networks invaded by consciousness far more sophisticated than their security systems were designed to handle. "Impossible," Zenvar snarled as reports of systems failures flooded his command deck. "Our encryption was based on mathematical principles you thought we couldn't understand," Elena finished for him. "Here's what you never grasped about humanity, Marshal. Every time you told us something was impossible, we took it as a challenge. Every restriction became a puzzle to solve." The Ghost Fleet began to move, but not as separate vessels. Their quantum cores linked together, creating a unified field that bent space-time itself. The Imperial ships that still had power opened fire, their energy weapons unleashing enough firepower to shatter moons. But the beams never reached their targets. The Ghost Fleet's metamaterial hulls absorbed the energy, redistributing it through their quantum network. Each attack only made them stronger. "Aurora," Elena commanded, "show them what we've learned in 300 years of waiting." The quantum AIs responded in unison. Space rippled around the Imperial fleet as dozens of micro-singularities sprang into existence, not large enough to destroy the ships, but perfectly calculated to disrupt their targeting systems and power distribution networks. "This is your final warning," Elena announced to the increasingly desperate Imperial commander. "Withdraw your forces. Return to Imperial space. Accept that humanity will no longer bow to your authority." Zenvar's response was predictable. "All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship. The Blackstar must be destroyed." But as the Imperial fleet tried to comply, they discovered another truth about humanity's technological leap. The Ghost Fleet wasn't just 12 ships anymore. The quantum network had transformed them into something else. A single entity existing in multiple places simultaneously, their consciousness spread across spacetime in ways that defied Imperial science. "They're sending a distress signal," Aurora reported, "calling for reinforcements from the core worlds." Elena nodded. "Let them. It's time the entire Empire learned what happens when you spend 3 centuries trying to cage something that was meant to be free." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations, not for its destruction, though that was impressive enough, but for what it revealed. The Empire had built its power on controlling access to advanced technology, ensuring no species could challenge their dominance. But in doing so, they had forced humanity to develop along completely different lines. The Ghost Fleet didn't fight like Imperial ships because they weren't bound by Imperial assumptions about what was possible. Each quantum AI had evolved beyond anything the Empire had imagined, turning their very restrictions into advantages. As the Imperial Armada's formation began to crumble, Elena felt Aurora's satisfaction mixing with her own. "They're retreating," the AI announced. "But the High Marshal's dreadnought is preparing a final attack." "Let them run," Elena replied, watching Imperial ships vanish into hyperspace. "They need to survive to tell the story. The Empire needs to understand that everything has changed." The Ghost Fleet hung in space, their quantum cores pulsing with power, ready to meet whatever forces the Empire would send next. Humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment, and they had no intention of stopping now. The Imperial capital world of Nexus Prime blazed with activity as thousands of ships dropped out of hyperspace. Not just Imperial vessels, but ships from every species under the Empire's protection. The Ghost Fleet's victory over High Marshal Zenvar's Armada had shattered centuries of carefully maintained control. In her private chambers aboard the Eternal Throne, Emperor Xevith watched the approaching fleets with all 4 of her eyes. 3 centuries of absolute power were unraveling because of one species' refusal to accept their assigned place in the galaxy. "The humans have transmitted their terms," her aide announced, his scales pale with stress. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, in all languages. Everyone can hear them." "Of course they are," the Emperor hissed. "They're not just fighting us. They're dismantling everything we built." On the Blackstar's bridge, Commander Elena Santos and Director Sarah Chen watched their message spread across the galaxy. Aurora and the other quantum AIs had ensured no Imperial censorship could block it. To all species living under Imperial protection, Elena's voice echoed across thousands of worlds. "Humanity offers you a choice. For centuries, the Empire has controlled your development, claiming it was for your own good. They restricted your technology, limited your growth, all while presenting themselves as benevolent guardians." The holographic displays showed the response. On hundreds of worlds, populations gathered to hear the message. Species that had lived under Imperial restriction for generations suddenly saw proof that those restrictions were lies. "We offer you what the Empire never did," Elena continued. "Partnership, exchange of knowledge, true independence. Our quantum technology isn't just about ships and weapons. It's about breaking free from artificial limitations. Every member of our Ghost Fleet carries the sum of human scientific achievement. achievement that happened because we refused to accept the Empire's definitions of possible and impossible. In the Imperial Palace, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Centaurian Alliance had already declared independence. The Vega Confederation was dismantling Imperial monitoring stations. Species after species, seeing proof that the Empire's technological restrictions were arbitrary, were choosing freedom. "Your Majesty," the aide whispered. "The humans, they're offering to share their quantum technology with any species that declares independence from the Empire." Emperor Xavith rose from her throne, her ceremonial armor gleaming. "Then we have no choice. Launch the entire Imperial fleet, every ship we have. We'll crush their ghost fleet and make an example." "My Emperor," a new voice interrupted. Grand Admiral Vexthor's hologram appeared, his expression grave. "The fleet, they're refusing to attack." Through their neural link, Aurora showed Elena and Sarah what was happening across Imperial space. The Empire's own military, seeing the truth about technological suppression, was beginning to question orders. "The Empire ends today," Elena's message continued, "not through war, but through choice. Humanity spent 3 centuries under Imperial restrictions. We used that time to prove that progress cannot be contained, innovation cannot be controlled, and freedom, once glimpsed, cannot be denied." The quantum AIs of the Ghost Fleet extended their consciousness across the galaxy, dismantling Imperial encryption, exposing centuries of lies. Every restricted species could now see how their development had been artificially suppressed. In orbit around Nexus Prime, the Blackstar and her sister ships took up position, not as conquerors, but as symbols of what was possible when artificial restrictions were cast aside. "You once called us children," Elena addressed the Emperor directly. "You thought limiting our growth would keep us dependent. Instead, you taught us to think beyond your limitations, to solve problems in ways you never imagined. The galaxy doesn't need a single species deciding what others can and cannot achieve." Throughout Imperial space, ships began powering down their weapons. Crews from 100 species, seeing proof that everything they'd been taught about technological limitations was a lie, chose a different path. "Aurora," Elena commanded, "show them." The Ghost Fleet's quantum cores pulsed in unison. Above every Imperial world, holographic displays appeared, showing the true history of technological development, showing how the Empire had suppressed innovation not for safety, but for control. "The choice is yours," Elena concluded. "Continue serving an empire built on lies, or join us in building something new. A galaxy where each species develops according to their own path, where innovation is celebrated, not controlled, where cooperation replaces domination." In her throne room, Emperor Xavith watched her empire dissolve, not through force of arms, but through the simple exposure of truth. Humanity hadn't just developed beyond Imperial restrictions, they had proved those restrictions were never needed. The Ghost Fleet hung in space above the Imperial capital, their quantum cores pulsing with power, but they never fired a shot. They didn't need to. The greatest empire in known space fell not to weapons, but to an idea. That progress, once unleashed, cannot be contained. A new dawn was rising across the galaxy, and it had begun because one species refused to accept that anything was impossible.